Hello, welcome back to another evening of shared stories and adventures. Tonight we're diving into the world of Hawkins, Indiana, and all the chaos that's unfolded in Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1. I'll be covering all 4 episodes that dropped on November 26th, 2025, but there's definitely more to come. Volume 2 hits on Christmas Day, and the finale drops on New Year's Eve, so we've got plenty to look forward to. It's been over 3 years since Season 4 ended, which is honestly a long time to wait. But if you've been itching to revisit what happened, or you need a refresher before diving into the next batch of episodes, you're in the right place. We'll start with where we left off, then move through each episode, covering the major plot points, character moments, and all the wild revelations along the way. If you like what I do here and want a way to support the channel, consider subscribing down below. But for now, grab your walkie-talkie, turn on your flashlight, and let's head back to Hawkins. Let's begin. So before we jump into the episodes themselves, we need to talk about where we left things, because honestly, Season 4 ended on one of the most intense cliffhangers the show has ever done. And I mean that. If you watched it when it came out in 2022, you've been sitting with that ending for over 3 years now. The big moment was Vecna's attack on Max. She died. Like, actually died. Her heart stopped for a full minute. Lucas was there, helpless, watching it happen. 11 managed to restart her heart from miles away using her powers, but the damage was done. Max survived, but she was left in a coma, her mind seemingly trapped somewhere unreachable. When we see her in the hospital, at the end of Season 4, she's just gone. No brain activity that they can detect. It's genuinely one of the most heartbreaking moments in the entire series. But that wasn't even the worst part. Vecna needed 4 kills to open 4 gates, and even though Max technically survived, he got what he needed. The 4 gates he'd created throughout Hawkins, they all converged. They met in the centre of town and created this massive rift that literally tore Hawkins apart. We're talking about a giant chasm cutting right through the middle of the town, with the upside down bleeding through into the real world. Buildings split in half, red lightning crackling across the sky, and this sort of ashy, poisonous atmosphere settling over everything. It looked like the apocalypse, because it kind of was. Then there's Eddie. Eddie Munson died a hero in the Upside Down, sacrificing himself to buy the others time during their assault on Vecna. But because the town still thought he was a murderer, because they'd spent the entire season blaming him for Vecna's killings, he never got any recognition for what he did. His name was dragged through the mud, and only the core group knew the truth. That's the kind of injustice that sticks with you, and it clearly stuck with Dustin, as we'll see in Episode 1. As for Vecna himself, the last we saw of him, Nancy, Steve and Robin had set him on fire and shot him multiple times with a sawed-off shotgun. He fell from the attic window of the Creel house, and when they went to check, his body was just gone. No trace, so the question hanging over everything was whether he was dead or just hiding somewhere, recovering. Spoiler alert, he was definitely not dead. The Season 4 epilogue showed us Hawkins 2 days later. The military had moved in. There were relief efforts, people evacuating, and this sense that the town was dying. Our heroes regrouped at Hopper's cabin. Hopper and Joyce were back together after his whole Russian prison ordeal, which still feels wild to think about. 11 had lost her powers again after overexerting herself to save Max. And everyone was just trying to process the fact that they'd failed. Vecna won. The gates were open, and there was no obvious way to close them. So that's where we were. Hawkins scarred, Max in a coma, Vecna missing, and our heroes scattered and exhausted. The Upside Down had broken through into the real world, and everything felt hopeless. Fast forward 18 months, and we're in November 1987. A lot has changed, which brings us to Episode 1, and what I think might be the most important opening scene in the entire series. Now let's talk about Episode 1, The Crawl. And we need to start with that opening scene because it completely recontextualizes everything we thought we knew about Stranger Things. I'm not exaggerating. This 5-minute sequence changes the entire show. We open on November 12th, 1983. If you remember, that's the night Will Byers disappeared. We're back in Castle Byers, that little fort Will built in the woods, and he's hiding inside. A young Will, looking terrified, singing "Should I Stay or Should I Go" by The Clash to try and calm himself down. It's the same song Jonathan gave him on that mixtape, the one that became so important throughout the series. A Demogorgon is hunting him. Will fires his gun at it, misses, and runs. He's sprinting through the upside-down version of the woods, trying to escape, and he climbs up a tree to get away from the creature. For a moment, it looks like he might actually make it, but then he falls. He hits the ground hard and he's knocked unconscious. Here's where it gets wild. The Demogorgon doesn't kill him. Instead, it picks him up and carries him deeper into the upside down, and it brings him directly to Vecna. Not the Mind Flayer, not some random creature. Vecna himself. We see him standing there in his full monstrous form, and he leans down over Will's unconscious body. Then Vecna does something we've never seen before. He extends this sort of tendril, this organic tentacle thing, and he forces it down Will's throat. It's disturbing to watch. Will's body convulses, and you can see this black substance being pushed into him, infecting him. And while this is happening, Vecna speaks to him. "Our plan can finally begin," he says. "We will do such beautiful things together." This moment reframes the entire first season. Will wasn't just a random victim. He wasn't accidentally taken. Vecna chose him. Vecna had a plan from the very beginning, and Will was always meant to be part of it. Everything that happened in Season 1, everything with the Mind Flayer in Season 2, it all traces back to this moment. Vecna wasn't just some villain who showed up in Season 4. He's been orchestrating this from the start. What's also really cool is how they pulled this off technically. The actor playing young Will is an 11-year-old named Luke Coquetet, but they used visual effects to put Noah Schnapp's face onto him. It's the same technique they used in Season 4 when they needed a younger 11. Waiter FX did the work, and honestly, it's seamless. Noah Schnapp mentioned in an interview that he actually reached out to Millie Bobby Brown for advice on how to work with a younger body double, which I think is pretty sweet. But the emotional weight of this scene isn't about the effects, it's about what it means. Will has been connected to Vecna since 1983. For 4 years of his life, he's been carrying this infection, this link to the Upside Down. And Vecna has been watching him, using him, waiting for the right moment. This opening doesn't just set up Season 5, it tells us that Vecna has been playing the long game. Will wasn't randomly taken, he was chosen, and now in 1987, Vecna's plan is finally reaching its conclusion. But that's just the first 5 minutes. Then we jump forward to November 1987, and Hawkins is a very different place. So way after that flashback, we're dropped into the present day, November 1987, and Hawkins has basically become a military state. The town is under full quarantine. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out, and there are soldiers everywhere. Like, they outnumber the actual civilians at this point. The show catches us up through Robin's radio broadcast, which I honestly appreciate as a storytelling choice. She's working at the local station, WSQK, and she's doing this morning show called The Morning Squawk. It's her 500th broadcast, actually. She uses it to explain what's been happening in Hawkins over the past year and a half, which is a pretty efficient way to deliver a ton of exposition without it feeling like a boring recap. Here's the situation. The government has set up what they call the MAC-ZID, which stands for Military Access Control Zone, but everyone just calls it the Big Mac. It's this massive fortified area in the centre of town, built around the main portal to the Upside Down, the one that opened when the 4 gates converged. They've covered all the cracks and rifts in the ground with these huge steel plates. Robin describes them as basically a giant band-aid, which is pretty accurate. You can see them throughout the town, these massive metal sheets bolted over the tiers in reality. The official story the government is pushing is that Hawkins experienced some kind of unprecedented natural phenomenon. An earthquake maybe, or some sort of geological event that's never been seen before. They're telling people it's being studied, that it's under control, and that the quarantine is for everyone's safety while they figure out what happened. But of course we know the truth, and so do our heroes. They know it's the upside down, they know Vecna is still out there somewhere, and they know the military is actively hunting for 11 because they think she's responsible for all of it. Robin is also dating Vicky now, which is sweet. We see them together, and it's clear they're happy. That's one of the few bright spots in an otherwise pretty bleak situation. Living arrangements have changed too. The Wheelers and the Byers are all under one roof now. Nancy, Mike and Holly are still with their parents, Ted and Karen, but Joyce, Jonathan and Will have moved in with them. It makes sense given everything that's happened. The Byers' house was pretty much destroyed, and with Hopper back, Joyce needed somewhere stable. So you've got this big blended family situation happening, which creates some interesting dynamics we'll see play out later. At school, things are tense. Dustin is still wearing his Hellfire Club shirt, the one honouring Eddie Munson. He refuses to take it off despite the fact that it makes him a target. Andy, one of the basketball players who tormented Eddie when he was alive, is leading the harassment now. He and his teammates go after Dustin constantly, mocking him, pushing him around. But Mike, Lucas and Will stand by Dustin's side. They're not letting him face this alone. There's this conflict Dustin is dealing with, you know. On one hand, he wants to honour Eddie's memory and clear his name. On the other hand, Hopper has made it very clear that everyone needs to keep their heads down. Blend in. Don't draw attention. Because the more visible they are, the more dangerous it becomes, especially for 11. It's a smart way to show how life has continued, but also how everything is wrong. Hawkins looks somewhat normal on the surface. Kids go to school, people go about their routines. But there's this military presence everywhere, this constant surveillance, and underneath it all, everyone knows something is deeply, fundamentally broken about their town. The atmosphere is oppressive. It's not the Hawkins we knew from earlier seasons. This is a town under occupation, a town living in fear, even if most people don't fully understand what they're afraid of. But the real reason we're here is the crawls. And if you're wondering what those are, let me explain. Let's talk about the crawls, because this is basically the entire secret operation the gang has been running for the past year and a half. It's their main strategy for finding Vecna, and it's honestly pretty clever when you think about it. Here's how it works. The military controls access to the upside down through the Max Z gate, right? They run regular operations where they burn through the barrier to send supplies and personnel into the upside down. They've established a whole base over there, which is wild to think about. During these burns, there's a window of opportunity, a brief moment when the gate is open and transport vehicles are going through. That's when Hopper makes his move. He hides in the back of military vehicles, sneaks through the gate, and once he's on the other side, he searches. The goal is simple. Scour the upside down, section by section, zone by zone, and find any trace of Vecna. They're being systematic about it. Each crawl covers a new area, and they map out where they've been so they don't waste time searching the same places twice. By the time episode 1 starts, they've done this 37 times. 37 separate missions into the upside down, and they still haven't found him. The coordination required is actually pretty impressive. Nancy acts as the mission coordinator. She plans the routes, keeps track of which zones have been searched, and organises the logistics. Joyce handles communications, using walkie-talkies to stay in contact with everyone. Mike and Lucas serve as spotters, watching for military patrols and keeping an eye out for anything suspicious. Steve drives, ready to move quickly if things go wrong. And Dustin operates the telemetry tracker, which lets them monitor Hopper's position even when he's in the upside down. They use coded messages to communicate without tipping off the authorities. Robin's radio broadcasts are the key to this. She'll play specific songs as signals. When she plays Upside Down by Diana Ross, that's the code. it means a crawl is happening that night. She'll also slip in other details, little hints buried in her chatter about music and pop culture that only the group understands. It's actually kind of brilliant. The military is listening, obviously. They monitor everything. But they're not going to flag a DJ talking about Diana Ross's discography or mentioning specifics from her autobiography. To anyone listening casually, it just sounds like Robin being enthusiastic about music. But to the group, it's detailed instructions. The whole operation runs on trust and timing. If one person messes up, if the military catches on, if Hopper gets stuck on the other side, the whole thing falls apart. And they've been doing this for over a year. The stress of it has to be enormous. But here's the thing. After 37 attempts, they have nothing. No sign of Vecna, no clues about where he went or what he's planning. It's like he just vanished after that fight at the Creel house. And that uncertainty is eating away at them. Because they know he's out there. They know he's not dead. But they can't find him. It's methodical, it's dangerous. And the fact that it hasn't worked yet is making everyone increasingly desperate. Meanwhile, while all this is happening topside, 11 is training in secret. Now let's talk about 11 because she's been basically hidden away this whole time, training like she's preparing for war. And in a way she is. She's living with Hopper and Joyce, completely off the grid. The military is hunting for her specifically. They believe she's responsible for everything that happened to Hawkins. In their eyes, she opened the gates, she caused the disaster, and she's the key to understanding what happened. Dr. K, who's the head of the military operation, has made finding 11 her top priority, so 11 can't go to school, can't be seen in public, can't have any kind of normal life. Instead, she trains. Hopper has set up this whole obstacle course for her. She runs through it daily, practicing her powers, building her strength and stamina. There's a specific benchmark she's trying to hit, a 12-minute completion time for the full circuit. It's brutal. She's pushing herself harder than we've ever seen, and you can tell she's desperate to prove herself. The thing is, 11 wants to join the Cruels. She wants to be there in the upside down, actively searching for Vecna. And honestly, it makes sense. She's the most powerful person they have. If anyone can sense Vecna or fight him, it's her. But Hopper refuses to let her go. His reasoning is practical, but also deeply emotional. If 11 shows up at the Max Zed, if she's anywhere near that military installation, she'll be detected. The soldiers are looking for her. They have protocols, equipment designed to track psychic energy. The moment she uses her powers in that area, they'll know, and Hopper isn't willing to risk losing her. Not after everything they've been through, not after he just got her back. So 11 trains in secret, hits her 12-minute goal, and still gets told no. You can see the frustration building in her. She's tired of hiding, tired of being protected, tired of sitting on the sidelines, while everyone else is out there fighting. But then comes the Cruel in episode 1, Cruel number 37, maybe 38, depending on how you're counting. The gang sets everything in motion. Robin plays the signal, the teams get into position, and Hopper sneaks through the gate as planned. In the woods near the Matkazid, Will suddenly freezes. He gets this look on his face, this expression of pure dread, and he tells the others he's sensing something. The connection to the upside down, the link that's been with him since 1983, it's flaring up. Something is close, something big. Mike and Lucas think maybe Vecna is nearby. Maybe this is finally it, the breakthrough they've been waiting for, but Will isn't sure. The feeling is strong, stronger than usual, but he can't pinpoint what it is. Meanwhile, Hopper is deep in the upside down, moving through the twisted mirror version of Hawkins, searching the designated zone. And he finds nothing. Again. Just the usual dead landscape, the toxic atmosphere, the oppressive silence of that place. No Vecna, no signs of recent activity. He's making his way back to the extraction points when he hears it, screaming. The military convoy that's supposed to take him back, the one he was hiding in, is under attack. By the time Hopper gets there, it's a massacre. A Demogorgon has torn through the entire convoy. Soldiers are dead everywhere. Blood bodies, absolute carnage. And somehow, Hopper is the only survivor. The Demogorgon had every opportunity here to kill him too, but it didn't. It just left. Hopper makes it back to the right side up, shaken, injured from the chaos, but alive. The crawl is over. Another failure. Still no Vecna, but while everyone is regrouping, while they're processing what happened, something else is happening across town. At the Wheeler house, Holly is in her bedroom reading A Wrinkle in Time. The lights start to flicker, and then her ceiling tears open, and a Demogorgon crashes through. Which brings us to the vanishing of Holly Wheeler. And honestly, the opening of this episode is one of the most intense sequences the show has ever done. So episode 2 opens exactly where episode 1 left off. And the Duffer Brothers were not kidding when they called this the craziest cold open we've ever done. Because this sequence is really, really intense, like genuinely disturbing in a way that feels different from the usual Stranger Things horror. The Demogorgon is in Holly's bedroom. She's just a little kid, maybe 9 or 10 years old, and this monster is tearing through her ceiling. She runs. She's smart enough to know she can't fight it, so she bolts out of her room and heads for the bathroom where her mum is about to take a bath. Karen is completely unprepared for what's happening. Holly bursts in, terrified, trying to tell her about the monster. At first, Karen thinks she's had a nightmare, or is seeing things, but then she touches the back of Holly's head, and her hand comes away bloody. Holly is bleeding. The lights start flickering, and Karen realizes this is real. The Demogorgon smashes through the bathroom door. What happens next is this absolutely terrifying sequence where Karen pulls Holly into the bathtub with her, and they hide underwater. Just completely submerged, holding their breath, trying to stay silent while this creature stalks around the bathroom looking for them. You can see them under the water, eyes wide, lungs burning, knowing that if they surface too soon, they're dead. It's one of the most tense moments in the entire series. You're just watching these two people trying not to drown while also trying not to get killed by a monster. It's horrible. Ted Wheeler saves them, kind of. He's outside hitting golf balls into the trees, which is such a Ted thing to do while his family's being attacked. But he notices the lights flickering in the house and comes inside to investigate. He sees the Demogorgon and, to his credit, he tries to fight it. He's got his golf club and he swings at this thing with everything he's got. The Duffer Brothers said in an interview that it's the best swing of Ted's life, which is probably true, but it doesn't do much. The Demogorgon just grabs him and throws him straight through a wall. Ted is knocked out cold, badly injured. Karen and Holly surface from the tub, gasping for air. They try to run. They make it downstairs, heading for the front door, but the Demogorgon corners them in the kitchen. There's nowhere left to go. And this is where Karen becomes an absolute hero. She's got a wine bottle in her hand from earlier in the evening. She smashes it against the counter, and she goes after the Demogorgon with the broken glass. She's stabbing it, slashing at it, screaming at it to stay away from her daughter. It's pure protective fury. Cara Buono, who plays Karen, mentioned that she was surprised and thrilled when she found out she was getting this badass mom moment. And she absolutely delivers. You believe that this woman would fight a literal monster with a broken bottle to protect her child, but the Demogorgon is too strong. It slashes Karen across the chest. She goes down, bleeding badly. Holly is screaming, and then a portal opens right there in the kitchen floor. This swirling tear into the upside down, and the Demogorgon grabs Holly and drags her through. Nancy and Eleven arrive at the house moments too late. Will had sensed something was wrong and warned Nancy, but by the time they get there, it's already over. Karen is on the floor, barely conscious, covered in blood. Ted is somewhere in the rubble from being thrown through the wall, and Holly is just gone. Nancy is devastated. This is her little sister. Her parents are dying in front of her, and she knows this is because of everything they've been keeping secret, all the lies they've told to protect their family from the truth. She begs Eleven to go after Holly. Eleven doesn't hesitate. She runs through the portal before it closes, disappearing into the upside down to try and save her. Meanwhile, Karen and Ted are rushed to the hospital. Ted ends up in a coma. Karen goes straight into surgery. The injuries are severe. These are normal people who just went through something absolutely traumatic, and they're lucky to be alive. To be fair, this isn't the kind of show that kills off parents casually, but the fact that they both survived feels almost miraculous given what we just watched. It's brutal, it's scary, and it's the first time the Wheelers have directly faced the horror their kids have been fighting for years. The cost of secrecy just became very, very real. No more hiding the truth, no more pretending everything is fine. The Upside Down came into their home and took their daughter. But while 11 is in the Upside Down searching for Holly, we learn something crucial about what's happening. In the Upside Down, 11 finds Hopper. He's out in the woods, still recovering from the convoy attack, and he's not happy to see her at all. He's frustrated, almost angry, because 11 just exposed herself. She used her powers to get through that portal, which means the military might have detected it. Dr. K's people could be tracking her right now. Everything they've done to keep her hidden, all the precautions they've taken, could be compromised. But 11 doesn't care about that. Holly's here somewhere, and she's going to find her. Hopper knows he can't argue with her. Not about this. So instead, they have this quiet moment where he admits what's really bothering him. He's afraid of losing her. After losing his daughter Sarah years ago, after everything he went through in Russia, the thought of losing 11 too is unbearable. She's his daughter now, and the idea that she might die trying to save someone else terrifies him. It's actually a really touching scene. Hopper isn't great at expressing emotions, but here he's being completely honest with her, and 11 in her straightforward way tells him she understands. But she also has to do this. They follow the Demogorgon's blood trail together. The creature was injured during the attack on the Wheeler house, probably from Karen's broken bottle, or from crashing through walls and ceilings, so there's a trail to track. 11 is convinced it will lead them straight to Holly, and from there to Vecna. But then they hit a wall. Literally. There's this massive barrier blocking their path. It's not made of stone or metal. It's organic, this pulsing flesh-like wall that stretches up and out in every direction. 11 tries to break through it with her powers. She pushes, strains, gives it everything she has. Nothing. Hopper tries hitting it, looking for weak points. Still nothing. The thing is completely impenetrable. Whatever is on the other side of that wall, they can't reach it. 11 realizes the Demogorgon took Holly through this barrier somehow, which means Holly is trapped behind it, and they have no way to get to her. Back in Hawkins at the radio station, Will is telling Joyce and Robin about what he experienced during the crawl. The vision he had wasn't like the others. It was stronger, more vivid. He wasn't just sensing the Upside Down. He was seeing through the Demogorgon's eyes. He was inside its mind, thinking what it thought, seeing what it saw. Robin has a theory about this. She thinks Will is acting like an antenna or a receiver for Vecna. The connection that was established back in 1983, the infection Vecna gave him, it's still active. And now that the gates are open, now that the hive mind is closer than ever, Will's connection has become stronger. He can tap into it, see through the eyes of the creatures Vecna controls, which means they might be able to use this. If Will can see what Vecna is targeting, they can stay one step ahead. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Mike and Nancy are sitting with their parents. Lucas is there too, and he points out something that nobody else has mentioned yet. The date. It's November 3rd. Will was taken on November 6th. Holly's abduction is happening just 3 days before the anniversary of Will's disappearance. That can't be a coincidence. Mike starts thinking about Holly's imaginary friend, Mr. Whatsit. Holly had been talking about him for weeks, maybe months. She said he visited her, that he was trying to protect her from the monsters. Everyone thought she was just making up stories the way kids do. But what if Mr. Whatsit was real? What if he knows where Holly is? Nancy remembers something. A vision Vecna showed her back in season 4. She saw her family dead, her parents and Holly all killed. She thought they'd prevented that future when they attacked Vecna at the Creel house. But maybe they didn't prevent it. Maybe they just delayed it. And then later in the episode, we get the reveal. Nancy finds something Holly had written, a name. Karen had asked Holly to write down Mr. Watsit's first name, thinking it might help them understand what was going on. The name is Henry Creel, Vecna. Mr. Watsit, Holly's imaginary friend, who's been visiting her, who's been building trust with her, is actually Vecna in his human form. He's been grooming her, preparing her for something. This sets up episode 3, where the gang realises they need to be proactive. They can't just wait for Vecna to strike again. Now let's talk about episode 3, the turnbow trap, which is where the gang finally goes on the offensive. Because after Holly's abduction, everyone realises that waiting around for Vecna to make the next move is just going to get more people killed. The episode actually starts with Will and Robin doing some unauthorised investigating. They sneak out at night to test Robin's theory about Will being an antenna for the hive mind. When Joyce finds them coming back to the radio station at dawn, she is not happy. She's furious, actually. She told Will specifically not to put himself in danger, and here he is, out in the woods, in the middle of the night, deliberately trying to tap into his connection with Vecna. Will has had enough of being protected. He snaps back at Joyce, tells her that her plan isn't working. Sitting around, hiding, staying safe, none of it is accomplishing anything. And he's right. They've been doing crawls for over a year, with nothing to show for it. Meanwhile, kids are being taken. Because of what Will and Robin discovered, they now know something crucial. Will can see through Vecna's eyes when he's stalking his next victim. He can identify who's being targeted before the attack happens, and he's already seen the next target, a kid named Derek Turnbow. Derek is one of Holly's classmates, which makes sense given the pattern. But here's the thing, Derek is also a bully. He's one of those kids who makes everyone else's life miserable at school. So there's this sort of dark irony to the fact that Vecna is targeting him. The kid who torments others is about to become a victim himself. The group meets up at WSQK to figure out what to do. They can't just let Derek get taken, but they also can't exactly walk up to the Turnbow family and say, "Hey, a monster from an alternate dimension is coming for your son. You should probably leave town." Nobody would believe them. The Turnbows don't know about any of this. They're just a normal family living in Hawkins, dealing with the quarantine like everyone else. So Mike comes up with a plan. And it's absolutely mental when you think about it. They're going to drug the entire Turnbow family, knock them all unconscious with sedatives. Then they'll move the family to a safe location and turn the Turnbow house into a trap. When the Demogorgon shows up looking for Derek, they'll ambush it. But instead of killing it, they'll tag it with a tracking device. The idea is that the Demogorgon will retreat back to wherever Vecna is hiding, and the tracker will lead them straight there. It's a Home Alone-style trap, combined with a wildlife tracking operation, basically. And yes, the moral implications of kidnapping a kid and drugging his entire family without consent are pretty questionable. Joyce even points this out. This plan doesn't look good on paper, but it's the best option they have. To pull it off, they need someone the Turnbow family trusts, someone who can get inside the house and deliver the sedatives without raising suspicion. That's where Erica comes in, Lucas's little sister. She used to be best friends with Tina Turnbow, Derek's older sister. If anyone can get invited into that house for dinner, it's Erica. At first, Erica refuses. Absolutely not. She's not about to betray her former best friend's trust and drug her entire family. That's a line she won't cross. But then Mike mentions that Holly has been taken. That changes things. Erica has a soft spot for Holly, and if this crazy plan might help get her back, if it might stop more kids from being taken, then Erica is in. Robin and Will head to the hospital to steal the sedatives they'll need. Robin has been visiting a fake grandmother there as a cover to see Vicky, who works as a candy striper. The nurse who oversees that area is pretty lax about security, and she leaves medications in an unlocked cabinet, so they're able to swipe some benzos without anyone noticing. The plan is set. Erica will bring a drugged pie to the Turnbow house. Once the family's unconscious, they'll move them to an isolated barn where Joyce, Robin, Will, and Erica will keep them safe. Meanwhile, Nancy, Steve, Jonathan, Mike, Lucas, and Dustin will rig the house with traps and wait for the Demogorgon to arrive. It's wild, it's risky, and honestly, it's kind of genius in a completely unhinged way. While the Hawkins crew is planning their trap, Hopper and Eleven are trying to figure out what the military is hiding in the Upside Down. That wall they encountered, the one they couldn't break through, it turns out it's not just a random barrier. Hopper and Eleven scout around the perimeter and realize it's massive. It curves around in both directions, forming what looks like a complete circle around a huge section of the Upside Down. Whatever is behind it, someone went to serious lengths to keep it sealed off. The military base is near the wall. That can't be a coincidence. So Hopper and Eleven decide they need to infiltrate it and find out what's really going on. They steal a Humvee from a supply depot and camouflage it with debris and vines from the Upside Down. It's not perfect, but it's good enough to get them close without being spotted immediately. Then they capture one of the soldiers patrolling the perimeter, a guy named Sergeant Akers, played by Alex Bro, who actually performed in the first Shadow stage play, Small World. Hopper tries interrogating him the old-fashioned way, but Akers isn't talking. He's loyal to Dr. K and the mission, whatever that mission is. So Hopper warns him. 11 is here, and she can get inside his head whether he cooperates or not. 11 enters Akers' mind, sifting through his memories, looking for answers. She sees Dr. K entering a secure room deep inside the upside-down military facility. There's a vault door, heavy metal, the kind you'd use to lock up something incredibly dangerous or incredibly valuable. Dr. K goes through it, but the memory cuts off before 11 can see what's inside. Akers starts panicking. Having 11 inside your mind is deeply invasive, and he can feel her digging through his thoughts. Hopper demands to know what's in the vault. What are they hiding? But before they get an answer, things go wrong. The military has sonic weapons, some kind of technology designed specifically to counter psychic abilities. When they activate it, 11 is affected immediately. It disrupts her powers, causes her pain, makes it impossible for her to concentrate. Hopper and 11 are forced to retreat before they can learn more. But 11 is convinced now. There's something powerful locked behind that vault door, something the military is desperately trying to keep contained. Her theory is that it might be Vecna himself. Maybe after the fight at the Creel house, the military found him, captured him, and locked him away. It would explain why the Cruels haven't found any trace of him. He's not hiding in the Upside Down. He's imprisoned in a military facility. It's a compelling theory. It would make sense given everything they've seen. But Hopper isn't entirely convinced. Something about it doesn't add up. If they really had Vecna locked up, why would Demogorgons still be attacking Hawkins? Why would kids still be getting taken? There's a piece of this puzzle they're still missing. But back in Hawkins, it's time to execute the Turnbow trap. So the plan is in motion, and what I love about this sequence is how it's both hilarious and genuinely tense at the same time. Because on one hand, you've got Erica Sinclair showing up to her former best friend's house with a drugged pie. On the other hand, they're doing this to save a kid's life. Erica arrives at the Turnbow house right on schedule. She's invited in for dinner, which goes exactly as planned. The family's happy to see her. Tina is a bit surprised since they haven't hung out in a while, but she's welcoming. The parents are polite, though the mum makes some comment about not entertaining Mormons or Democrats, which is very on brand for 1980s suburban Indiana. Erica serves the pie. She's nervous. You can see it in her performance, but she's committed to the bit. The family digs in. Derek eats his slice. The parents eat theirs. But then there's a problem. Tina refuses her piece. She says she's watching her calories. This wasn't part of the plan. Erica tries to convince her, offers her a smaller slice, but Tina isn't budging. And then the sedatives start kicking in for everyone else. Derek's dad gets this confused look on his face. His movements become sluggish. The mum slumps in her chair. Derek himself passes out face first into his plate. Tina realizes something is wrong. She starts to panic, and Erica, thinking fast, pulls out a syringe that Robin gave her as backup and just stabs Tina with it. Injects her right there in the dining room. Tina goes down within seconds. It's kind of darkly funny watching Erica have to improvise like that. She's just a kid herself, and here she is drugging an entire family because the fate of Hawkins depends on it. Joyce, Robin, Will, and Erica load the unconscious Turnbow family into a van and drive them out to an isolated barn on the edge of town. They lay them out on cots, make them as comfortable as possible, given the circumstances, and settle in to wait. The sedatives should keep them out for hours, long enough for the trap to work. Meanwhile, back at the Turnbow house, Nancy, Steve, Jonathan, Mike, Lucas, and Dustin are turning the place into a war zone. They're setting up tripwires, spreading accelerants through the hallways, boarding up windows to control where the Demogorgon can enter. Murray shows up with additional supplies, including the tracking device Nancy will need. Dustin has this idea to convert Steve's BMW into a dedicated tracking vehicle so they can follow the signal once they tag the Demogorgon. Steve is not thrilled about this, his car is his baby, but he agrees because, saving the world and all that. There's also this awkward moment where Murray accidentally reveals that Jonathan has been carrying around an engagement ring. He plans to propose to Nancy. It's hidden inside a cassette tape that Murray gave him earlier. Jonathan looks mortified that this got revealed, and the timing is absolutely terrible, given everything else happening. But there's no time to deal with relationship drama. The streetlights start flickering. The Demogorgon is coming. Steve and Dustin are monitoring from the car outside. They see the lights going out one by one down the street, getting closer. Inside the house, Nancy, Jonathan, Mike, and Lucas get into position. They're ready. A portal opens in Derek's bedroom ceiling. The Demogorgon drops through, heading straight for the bed where Derek should be sleeping. But Derek isn't there. The creature pauses, confused. That's when Nancy fires. She's got a shotgun loaded with a custom shell that Dustin designed. It's packed with the tracking transmitter. She hits the Demogorgon square in the shoulder. The tracker embeds itself deep. The Demogorgon shrieks. It's not a killing blow, just enough to wound it and make it retreat, which is exactly what they want. Jonathan throws a Molotov cocktail. The creature catches fire, panics, and tears back through the portal to the Upside Down. It worked. The plan actually worked. But then Steve makes a decision that, in hindsight, is completely insane. Instead of letting the tracker do its job, instead of waiting and monitoring the signal remotely, he decides to follow the Demogorgon. He guns the BMW and drives straight through the portal into the Upside Down. Nancy, Jonathan, and Dustin barely have time to react before they're going through too. Classic Steve, always putting himself in danger. On the other side, Steve is driving through the Upside Down, following the wounded Demogorgon's trail. And then, just like Hopper and 11 before them, they hit the wall. Steve's BMW crashes straight into it. The car is stuck, half embedded in this organic barrier that won't budge. Steve, Nancy, Jonathan, and Dustin are trapped in the Upside Down. The portal they came through has closed. They're on their own. And back at the barn, Will suddenly goes rigid. His eyes unfocus. He can feel Vecna's presence through the hive mind. Vecna knows exactly what they did. He's been watching. This was never a trap for the Demogorgon. It was Vecna's trap for them. Meanwhile, Holly's having a very different experience in Vecna's lair. Let's talk about Holly's storyline, because it's genuinely one of the most unique plots Stranger Things has ever done. While everyone else is dealing with military operations and Demogorgon traps, Holly's living in what looks like a dream. She wakes up in the Creel house, but it's not the decaying nightmare version we saw in Season 4. This is the Creel house, as it was in the 1950s, restored and beautiful. Everything is pristine. The furniture is polished, the wallpaper is fresh, sunlight streams through the windows. It's idyllic in a way that's both comforting and deeply unsettling. Henry, in his human form, as Mr. Whatsit, is there to greet her. He's kind, almost avuncular. He makes her an elaborate breakfast. We're talking fried eggs, toast pancakes, fresh fruit, cream, strawberry preserves. It's the kind of breakfast a kid dreams about. And he's completely gentle with her, reassuring her that everything is fine, that her parents will join them soon, that she's safe here. Holly explores the house. She tries on dresses from the closets, dances around to I Think We're Alone Now, playing on an old radio, plays with toys that look like they're from decades ago. For a 10-year-old kid who's just been through something traumatic, this must feel like some kind of strange refuge. She finds an old photograph of a young Henry. He looks normal in the picture, just a regular boy. There's nothing monstrous about him yet, but Henry gives her one rule. She can go anywhere in the house, do anything she wants, but she cannot go into the forest outside. The forest is where the monsters live, he tells her. It's the one place that isn't safe. Of course, that just makes Holly more curious. One day, the doorbell rings. Holly goes to answer it, but nobody's there. However, the mailbox flag is up. Inside, she finds an envelope addressed to her. There's a note that says, "I need your help. Meet me at the X. Henry." With the note is a map and a compass. The map shows a path through the forbidden forest to a specific location, marked with an X. Holly clutches her Holly the heroic action figure, the one Mike gave her in episode 1. She remembers what Mike told her about the character. Holly the heroic is a cleric with divine powers who can cast protection spells and create dimension doors. She wonders what her guardian angel would do in this situation, and then she makes a decision. She's going into the forest. The woods are dark and twisted, very different from the bright, cheerful house. Holly is scared, but she keeps going. She follows the map, uses the compass to stay on course, and eventually she finds it. A cave. She steps inside, and that's when she sees her. A teenage girl sitting against the cave wall, looking exhausted, but very much alive and conscious. It's Max Mayfield, the girl everyone thought was gone, the girl who's been in a coma since the end of season 4. She's here. She's been trapped in Vecna's mindscape this whole time, hiding in this cave. The episode ends with Holly and Max meeting, and it's this perfect moment of hope in the middle of all the darkness. Holly isn't alone anymore, and Max has been waiting, surviving, fighting in her own way. The reveal is beautiful because it's not just about Max being alive, it's about two people who both needed someone finding each other in the worst place imaginable. Which brings us to episode 4, Sorcerer, and this is where Volume 1 absolutely delivers. Episode 4 is called Sorcerer, and the Duffer Brothers weren't lying when they said it was massive and logistically insane. This is basically a feature-length finale for Volume 1. It clocks in at about an hour and 23 minutes, making it one of the longest episodes in the entire series, and every minute of that runtime is used. The episode opens back at the barn, where Derek Turnbow is waking up, terrified and confused. He's been unconscious for hours, and now he's surrounded by strangers telling him they're trying to save his life. He doesn't believe them. He thinks they're the ones he should be afraid of. Derek tells them that Mr. Whatsit warned him about this. Mr. Whatsit said monsters were coming for the people of Hawkins, and Will specifically was mentioned as someone dangerous. So in Derek's mind, Will is the threat, not the solution. Joyce tries to calm him down, explain the situation, but Derek isn't having it. He shoves past her and makes a run for it. Will tackles him, they struggle, and Derek throws dirt in Will's face, before climbing up into the loft of the barn and pulling the ladder up behind him. They're still trying to reason with him when Will freezes. Another vision, the hive mind connection flaring up. A Demogorgon has found them. The creature crashes into the barn. Joyce fights it off with whatever she can grab, a pitchfork, pieces of wood, anything. She's desperately trying to protect the kids. And then Steve's car comes out of nowhere and slams into the Demogorgon at full speed. The impact is brutal. The Demogorgon is knocked aside, and it tears open a portal to escape back into the Upside Down. But Steve doesn't stop. He drives straight through the portal, taking Nancy, Jonathan, and Dustin with him. They disappear into the Upside Down, and the portal closes behind them. So now half the team is trapped on the other side, with no way back. The military's response to all of this is swift and overwhelming. After the attack at the Wheeler house, and now the barn incident, Dr. K decides it's time to take drastic action. She orders her forces to round up all the children in Hawkins. Every kid who might be at risk gets taken to the Maxid barracks for their own protection. That's the official story anyway. In reality, Dr. K still thinks 11 is behind the attacks. She believes that if she gathers potential targets in one place, she can set a trap and finally capture 11. The children are taken from their homes and schools. Parents are told it's a safety measure, that the military will keep them secure until the threat passes. Most families don't have a choice but to comply. This is martial law. At the radio station, the remaining team regroups. Will tells them about his latest vision. He saw something through Vecna's eyes. Holly is connected to a central spire, and she's not alone. There are other children connected to similar spires. Vecna needs 12 in total. 12 perfect vessels. Mike puts it together. Vecna is building an army, not of demogorgons or mind flayers, but of children. Kids whose minds can be shaped and controlled. Will was the test run back in 1983. Vecna proved the concept worked. Now he's scaling it up. The plan becomes clear. They need to get those kids out of the Max Z before Vecna comes for them. Derek can help. He's been inside the base, he knows the layout, and more importantly, he can identify which children have seen Mr. Whatsit. Those are the ones Vecna is targeting. They send Derek undercover back into the base with a walkie-talkie hidden in his G.I. Joe lunchbox. His job is to round up the targeted kids and lead them to a specific location where Murray will be waiting with an escape route through secret tunnels. It's risky. Everything about this plan is risky, but they're out of options. And then, in the Upside Down, 11 makes a discovery that changes everything. So while all of this is happening in Hawkins, Hopper and 11 finally breach that vault we've been wondering about since episode 3. They've been scouting the military facility, watching the patterns, waiting for an opportunity, and they get one when the power shuts down temporarily. Some kind of maintenance cycle or system reset. The guards are distracted. The security systems go offline for just a few minutes. That's all the time they need. Hopper and 11 slip inside. The facility is massive, way more extensive than they realized from the outside. Hallways branch off in multiple directions, all of them reinforced with steel and concrete. This isn't some temporary outpost. This is a permanent installation built to contain something serious. They make their way to the vault. The heavy metal door is sealed, but with the power out, the electronic locks aren't functioning. Hopper pries it open manually, and they step inside. What they find is not Vecna. It's Carly, number 8, the girl with illusion powers who 11 met back in Season 2 during that episode in Chicago. She's alive. She's been here the whole time, imprisoned by the military, held in this vault like some kind of weapon they're keeping in reserve. When she sees 11, there's this moment of recognition, relief, maybe even hope. They're not close exactly. Their time together in Season 2 was brief and complicated, but they share a bond. They're both survivors of Hawkins' lab. They both understand what it's like to be hunted for what they can do. Carly looks exhausted, like she's been through hell, but her powers are still intact. 11 can see that immediately. The Duffer brothers mentioned in interviews that bringing Kaylee back was partly about tying up a loose end from Season 2, that Chicago episode, which a lot of fans didn't love. But it's also strategic. Carly's illusion abilities could be crucial in the fight ahead, and having Linnea Berthelsen return gives her a chance to actually show what she can do in a way that episode never really allowed. But there's no time for a proper reunion. The alarm starts blaring. Someone noticed the vault was breached. Dr. K's voice comes over the intercom, cold and controlled. She says she's been looking for 11 for a long time, and now that she's finally here, she's not letting her leave. Soldiers flood into the corridor. Akers, who managed to free himself at some point, is leading them. Hopper pulls 11 behind cover. He's trying to fight them off, taking down several soldiers before his gun jams. That's when Akers gets the upper hand. And then something worse happens. A creature from the upside down, some kind of tentacled thing, bursts through the wall and wraps itself around Hopper's neck. Dr. K steps into the room. She looks at Hopper struggling against the creature and asks him why he keeps risking himself for 11. What makes her worth dying for? Hopper doesn't answer. He can't. He's choking. And that's when 11 realizes Hopper is wearing something under his jacket. An explosive vest. He came here prepared to blow himself up if it meant stopping Vecna. It's his last resort, his backup plan if everything goes wrong. Now we get to the absolute highlight of Volume 1, the Mac-Z battle, Vecna's arrival, and Will Byers becoming the hero we've been waiting for. Back at the Mac-Z, Derek has managed to identify the children who've seen Mr. Whatsit. There are 5 of them total, including Derek himself. Mike, Lucas, Robin, Joyce, Will, and Erica are moving through the underground tunnels with these kids, trying to get them to safety before Vecna realizes what's happening. Murray is waiting at the extraction points with a truck. The plan is to load everyone up and get them as far from Hawkins as possible, but then the entire base goes into lockdown. Red emergency lights start flashing. Sirens blare. The military has detected something coming through the main gate. Something big. And that's when Vecna makes his entrance. The Duffer Brothers said they wanted this moment to feel like Darth Vader's appearance in Rogue One. That scene where he just walks through a hallway, destroying everyone in his path. And honestly, they nailed it. Vecna steps through the Mac-Z portal from the upside down, and the atmosphere changes immediately. You feel the power radiating off him. This isn't the wounded, burning figure from the end of Season 4. He's fully healed, stronger than ever, and absolutely terrifying. The soldiers open fire, bullets hit him and just bounce off or pass through without doing any damage. He doesn't even flinch. He just keeps walking forward. Then he starts killing them. It's a massacre. Vecna doesn't use weapons. He uses his mind. Soldiers are lifted into the air, their bones snapping, their bodies contorting in ways that shouldn't be possible. It's the same technique he used on his victims in Season 4, but now he's doing it to multiple people at once. The military's weapons, their training, their technology, none of it matters. They're completely helpless against him. Demogorgons start pouring through the gate behind him. Dozens of them. The base descends into absolute chaos. Murray gets some of the children into the truck and floors it, trying to escape with whoever he can save. Robin is with him, along with 2 of the kids, but the Demogorgons are chasing them. Murray is weaving through the base, taking corners at dangerous speeds, and these creatures are right on their tail. Mike, Lucas, Joyce, Will, and the remaining 3 children, including Derek, are trapped in the tunnels. They can hear the screaming from above, the sounds of the battle. They know they need to move, but there are Demogorgons between them and any exit. Joyce is trying to keep the kids calm, but they're all terrified. Rightfully so. Then Vecna finds them. He appears at the end of the tunnel, blocking their path. Up close, his presence is overwhelming. Jamie Campbell Bower's performance here is genuinely chilling. He's not rushing, not shouting. He's calm, almost gentle in his demeanour, which makes him even more frightening. He looks directly at Will. "Hello, Will," he says. "It's been a long time." This is the first time Will has seen Vecna face to face since that night in 1983, the first time since he was infected, and you can see the fear in Will's eyes, but also something else. Recognition, a connection he's been trying to deny for years. Vecna starts talking. He explains his plan like a villain in a Bond film. But it works because the stakes are real, and the kids are right there listening to every word. He needs 12 children, perfect vessels because their minds are malleable, easily shaped and controlled. He's been preparing them through Mr. Whatsit, building trust, making them comfortable with his presence. Will was the proof of concept. The test run back in 1983. Vecna infected him, controlled him through the Mind Flayer in Season 2, and learned exactly how to manipulate a human mind through the hive-mind connection. Now he's perfected the technique. These 12 children will become extensions of Vecna himself. They'll help him reshape the world, tear down the barriers between dimensions, and create something new, something he controls completely. Will was meant to be his spy, his antenna, watching the group's plans and feeding information back to Vecna. That's why the turbo trap failed. Vecna knew about it the whole time. Mike steps forward. He's scared, but he's also angry. He tells Vecna that Will isn't weak, that he's stronger than Vecna realizes, that he's not just a wizard in their D&D games who learned magic from books. He's a sorcerer. His powers are innate, born from within. Vecna laughs. He thinks Mike is delusional. Will Byers is nothing. He's always been nothing, a frightened boy hiding in the shadows. But then Will remembers something Robin told him earlier. She'd pulled him aside after noticing his feelings for Mike, and told him about her own journey of self-acceptance. She talked about realizing who she was, accepting herself for who she could be, rather than relying on anyone else for validation. And she told Will that he's more powerful than he knows. He just needs to believe it. Memories flash through Will's mind. Castle Byers, the fort he built with Jonathan, Mike finding him in the Upside Down in Season 1, refusing to give up on him. Their friendship over the years, the moments of joy, of belonging, of being seen for who he really is. Will closes his eyes. When he opens them again, they're completely white, just like Vecna's. The demogorgons that were closing in on the group suddenly stop. They freeze mid-step, confused, like they've lost their connection to something. Will raises his hand. His arm is shaking from the effort, but he's doing it. He's tapping into the hive mind, not as Vecna's spy, as someone with equal access to it. He can see through the demogorgon's eyes, feel what they feel, and more importantly, he can control them. One of the demogorgons begins to rise into the air. Will's gesture becomes more violent. The creature's limbs start to bend. You hear bones snapping. It's the exact same technique Vecna uses to kill people, but Will is using it on the demogorgon. The creature's body contorts, breaks, and then falls lifeless to the ground. Then the next one, and the next. The entire sequence is shot in one continuous take. This long tracking shot that follows the action, from the tunnel where Will is standing to the creatures being destroyed around the base. The Duffers said it was the most logistically challenging thing they've ever filmed, and you can see why. The choreography, the timing, the practical effects all happening in real time. It's absolutely incredible. One by one, the demogorgons collapse. Will is destroying them all. Millie Bobby Brown said watching Noah Schnapp perform this scene during the table read had her gagged to the floor. The cast didn't know Will was getting powers until they read it together. Vecna's expression changes. He's not laughing anymore. He's shocked. He didn't see this coming. He underestimated Will completely. Will falls to his knees. The effort has drained him. His eyes return to normal, and a thin line of blood runs from his nose. The same nosebleed Eleven gets when she uses her powers. He wipes it away with his sleeve. The camera holds on his face. He's exhausted but determined. For the first time in the entire series, Will Byers looks powerful. So that's where Volume 1 leaves us, and honestly, what a place to end. Let's talk about what we just watched, because Volume 1 accomplished a lot in 4 episodes. We got answers to questions we've been asking since Season 1, we saw massive character development, and the stakes have been raised higher than they've ever been. The biggest revelation is that Vecna has been orchestrating everything from the very beginning. Will's abduction wasn't random. The Mind Flayer possessing him in Season 2 wasn't opportunistic. Vecna had a plan, and he's been executing it for 4 years. That reframes the entire series. Every time we thought our heroes were winning, Vecna was actually just learning, adapting, preparing for this moment. Will now has powers, actual 11-level telekinetic abilities that come from his connection to the hive mind. The Duffer Brothers confirmed in interviews that Will's powers work differently from 11's. He's not generating psychic energy on his own. He's channeling Vecna's power, puppeteering the hive mind against itself. It's a parasite using the host's strength against it. And that distinction is important because it means Will's abilities are tied to proximity and connection. The closer he is to the upside down, the stronger he becomes. Max is alive, not just alive but conscious, aware, and surviving in Vecna's mindscape. She's been trapped there since her near-death experience at the end of Season 4, hiding in caves that Vecna himself is too afraid to enter. Those caves are connected to his origin story, the place where he was first possessed by the Mind Flayer as a child. That trauma runs so deep that even now, even as powerful as he is, Vecna won't relive it. And that's where Max has made her refuge. Holly's importance to the plot cannot be overstated. She's not just another victim. She's central to Vecna's plan. He's been grooming her as Mr. Whatsit, building trust over months, preparing her to accept what's coming. And now she's one of the 12 vessels he needs. But she's also found Max, which means she has an ally, someone who understands what Vecna is capable of, and how to resist him. Carly returning was a surprise, but it makes sense. The Duffers wanted to tie up that loose thread from Season 2, and they also needed to give 11 additional support. Carly's illusion powers could be crucial in the battles ahead. If she can make Vecna see things that aren't there, create distractions or false targets, that's a massive tactical advantage. Steve, Nancy, Jonathan, and Dustin are trapped in the Upside Down, with Steve's car stuck in that mysterious wall. Hopper and 11 discovered that the wall forms a complete circle around Hawkins National Laboratory. Whatever is at the centre of that circle, it's important. It might be where Vecna's real body is, or where he's keeping the children, or something else entirely we haven't figured out yet. The themes running through Volume 1 are really compelling. Self-acceptance is huge, especially for Will and Robin. Robin's journey of coming out and accepting herself parallels what Will is going through, and it's that self-acceptance that unlocks Will's ability to use his powers. He had to stop seeing himself as weak, stop hiding who he is, before he could access his full potential. Parental protection is another major theme. Hopper's fear of losing 11, Joyce's overprotectiveness of Will, Karen literally fighting a Demogorgon with a broken bottle to save Holly. These parents have watched their children fight monsters for years, and they're finally confronting the cost of that. Ted and Karen almost died. The Wheelers can't pretend anymore that everything is fine. The cost of secrecy ties into that. Nancy and Mike kept the truth from their parents to protect them, but that secrecy nearly got them killed. The lies were meant to keep people safe, but they actually made things worse. Performance-wise, everyone is bringing their A-game. Noah Schnapp's work in Episode 4 is phenomenal. The way he goes from terrified to powerful in that final sequence is incredible. Cara Buono got her moment to shine as badass Karen Wheeler. Millie Bobby Brown continues to show 11's growth and maturity, and Jamie Campbell, Bauer as Vecna, is genuinely terrifying every time he's on screen. Frank Darabont directing Episode 3 was a huge get. The man came out of retirement to do this, and you can see his influence in how tightly the episode is structured. It feels like classic Stranger Things, while also pushing the story forward in meaningful ways. What questions still remain? Where is Vecna's physical body? What's really at the centre of that wall? How will the group rescue Holly and the other children? Can Will control his powers, or will they consume him the way Vecna's powers consumed Henry Creel? How do you defeat someone who's been planning this for decades? Volume 2 drops on Christmas Day, with 3 more episodes. Then the series finale arrives on New Year's Eve, and it's going to be shown in over 350 theatres across the US and Canada alongside the Netflix release. The Duffers said getting to see the finale on the big screen with incredible sound and picture feels like the perfect way to celebrate the end of this adventure. Volume 1 did exactly what it needed to do. It reminded us why we love this show, raised the stakes higher than ever, and left us desperate for more. Before we wrap up, let me share a few extra details and fun facts that didn't fit anywhere else. Here are some fun facts and behind-the-scenes details I found that I think are worth sharing. First off, Netflix crashed when Volume 1 dropped. Like, actually crashed. They'd increased their bandwidth by 30% specifically to handle the demand, knowing this was going to be massive. And it still wasn't enough. Thousands of users reported errors within minutes of the premiere. The site was down for a few minutes before they got it back online. If anything, it just proves how big Stranger Things still is, even in its final season. Episode 2's title was initially hidden to avoid spoilers. When Volume 1 first released, the episode was listed on Netflix as just The Vanishing of, with the rest cut off. It stayed that way for 3 days before they changed it to the full title, The Vanishing of Holly Wheeler. It's a nice callback to the series premiere, The Vanishing of Will Byers, and they clearly wanted that reveal to hit during the episode itself, rather than spoiling it in the menu. The music from Volume 1 saw a massive surge in popularity after release. Upside Down by Diana Ross experienced the biggest gain, more than tripling its streams. Billboard reported it jumped 373% to a total of 953,000 streams in the week following the premiere. Stranger Things has always had this effect on older music, bringing classic songs to new audiences. It happened with Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill in Season 4, and it's happening again. The visual effects for young Will in the opening scene used the same technique they developed for young Eleven in Season 4. They cast an 11-year-old actor named Luke Coquetet to play young Will's body. Then Weta FX digitally applied Noah Schnapp's face onto him. Noah mentioned he reached out to Millie Bobby Brown for advice on how to work with a younger body, double, which I think is really sweet. It shows how collaborative the cast is behind the scenes. Frank Darabont directing Episode 3 was a huge surprise. The man is a legend. He directed The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, and he was heavily involved in the early seasons of The Walking Dead. He'd been retired, but the Duffers convinced him to come back specifically for this episode. And he crushed it. The episode feels tighter and more focused than almost anything else in the season. What's funny is that Dan Trachtenberg was originally supposed to direct an episode this season. He did 10 Cloverfield Lane and Prey, both incredible films. But he got pulled away to direct Predator Badlands after that film got greenlit, so Frank Darabont stepped in instead. Not a bad replacement, honestly. Linda Hamilton joining the cast as Dr. K is perfect casting. She's got this natural authority and intensity that makes her character immediately intimidating. If you want to see her in another fun sci-fi role, check out Resident Alien. She's great in that. The episode titles all have meaning. The Crawl refers to the search operations. The Vanishing of Holly Wheeler mirrors the series premiere. The Turnbow Trap is a double meaning, referring both to the hero's plan and Vecna's trap for them. And Sorcerer refers to Mike's speech about Will being a sorcerer rather than a wizard, since his powers are innate rather than learned. The name Mr. Whatsit comes from A Wrinkle in Time, the book Holly is reading throughout the first episode. In that story, Mrs. Whatsit is one of 3 celestial beings who help the protagonist. It's a deliberate inversion. Holly's Mr. Whatsit pretends to be a protector, but he's actually the threat. If you've seen The First Shadow, the stage play that serves as a prequel to Stranger Things, some of the connections in Season 5 will hit differently. The caves where Max hides are the same caves where young Henry Creel was possessed by the Mind Flayer. The play explores that event in detail, and it adds a whole extra layer to why Vecna won't go near them. Noah Schnapp talked about the challenges of filming out of order. The big Maxa battle in episode 4 was actually the second time he performed it. He had to do it again later in the season for a different scene, and that was technically the first time chronologically, which meant he was still figuring out how to play it. He mentioned FaceTiming with the Duffers to make sure he was getting it right. The cast's reaction to Will's powers during the table read was genuine. They didn't know it was coming. The Duffers keep major plot points secret even from the actors until the table read, so watching Noah Schnapp's character suddenly develop 11-level abilities was a shock to everyone. The long tracking shot during the battle sequence is a technical marvel. Getting all those effects, stunts and performances to line up in one continuous take required insane levels of coordination. It's the kind of thing you watch and think looks seamless, but it probably took dozens of attempts to get right. There's just so much packed into these 4 episodes. The attention to detail is incredible, and it shows why the wait was worth it. And that, my dear friends, is Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1. We covered a lot tonight. 4 episodes, multiple storylines, massive revelations about Vecna's plan and Will's powers, and one of the most intense cliffhangers the show has ever delivered. We saw Holly get taken, Max revealed to be alive, Kaylee returning, and Will Byers finally stepping into his role as someone who can fight back against the Upside Down. But this is only the beginning of the end. Volume 2 drops on Christmas Day, December 25th, with 3 more episodes. Then the series finale arrives on New Year's Eve, December 31st. That final episode is going to be massive, reportedly around 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it'll be shown in theatres alongside the Netflix release. If you want to experience the end of Stranger Things on the big screen with a room full of fans, that's your chance. There's still so much story left to tell. We need to see how they rescue Holly and the other children, how Steve's group escapes the Upside Down, what Carly's role will be in the final battle, and of course, how they're going to defeat Vecna once and for all. The Duffers have promised that everything will be resolved, that all the loose ends will be tied up, and that the finale will feel like a true ending to this journey that started back in 2016. I'll definitely be covering Volume 2 when it drops, breaking down those 3 episodes and analysing where the story goes from here. And then, when the finale hits, we'll talk about how it all ends. For now, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap and want to support the channel, subscribing really does help. But until next time, stay safe, keep your flashlights charged, and I'll see you when Volume 2 drops on Christmas Day. Sweet dreams.